Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week of Future of Money. My name is Denitha Doe with Libra, and I am here with the absolutely amazing Dr. James Canton, the global futurist, future guru, and I'm so excited to chat with you today, Dr. Canton. Thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And I first heard of you from your report, which was published in Accounting Today, about the future of the accounting industry. And it was such a comprehensive and thorough report that hit on so many different topics. Can you talk to us a little bit about the report that you had published on Accounting Today?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So my Institute for Global Futures, we put together a study with CPA.com on the future of kind of the future readiness of CPAs. So looking out over the horizon of, what are the key drivers, what are the key trends that will shape not just the future of the CPA profession, but also what's going on kind of in the marketplace, society, what are key trends the CPAs need to get in sync with so they can be more, future ready.
I love that. And for those that aren't familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, so I run the Institute for Global Futures in San Francisco. We're a think tank that advises both startups and global Fortune 100 companies. And I've written a series of books, and I've been in the game for about 20 years. I'm a social scientist, but really a futurist. My new book that just came out about a month ago is called Future Smart, and in it, I track the trends that will shape the next really 50 years on the planet.
That's really exciting. So, with all of these different trends, combining social and political and possibly economic trends in your work, what made you interested in the accounting industry?
Well, the accounting industry, I wouldn't say I have a deep interest in the accounting industry. The accounting industry really approached me and said, "Hey, you're a futurist. Help us get in touch with what's coming in the future more, so we can be more relevant. We can be kind of anticipatory. We can anticipate and better adapt and be useful for our customers, if you will, our clients." So, out of that, I did get interested in, the accountants really drive, shape, control. They're the gatekeepers for good governance around finance, good governance around accounting and reporting. But more importantly, their role is shifting. And as I've been talking about in my new book, I realized the connected planet, what's next for diversity, what's next for the marketplace, that there are things that we needed to survey. So we put together a survey to try to talk to and understand from the accountant firms themselves, are they ready for the future? And what came back was a series of data sets, and we took the data sets and put together a study called, the CPA of the future, is he or her, future ready or not? And we came up with some findings that showed us where accountancy firms are and where they're not. And that was the substance of the study, was to say, okay, let's get future ready. Let's focus on these areas, particularly on innovation, globalization, diversity, workforce, that they're not ready for, but they need to get better ready for.
Awesome, thank you. Can you walk us through where are accounting firms today and what do they need to get to in order to be future ready?
Well, I'll give you a preview of what I think what's going on, and then of course I would encourage people to look for the study. It's at CPA.com and a number of other places as well. Probably Accounting Today has a story. Um, the key takeaways were in the areas of the workforce. Let's say there's a real concern that accountancy firms are not able to acquire, retain, hire the right kind of talent. Certainly, the talent that is both on one hand knowledge rich about accounting, which is becoming more and more complicated, dealing with globalization, technology, certainly digital currency, all of those things we'll talk more about. And then, of course, being able to do your job is no longer just about, hey, let's file the taxes. It's about trying to create a more predictive vision for your clients so they can manage risk better, but also manage opportunity better. The other key area was diversity. There's just uh, the accountancy firms do not reflect the marketplace and where the marketplace is evolving. So you have over 51% of the marketplace in our society in the U.S. is dominated by women, for instance. So that means you really need to make sure that you're in sync with that. And then, of course, the two or three fastest growing demographic groups, Latin Americans first, and then certainly Asians, not to mention African Americans, these segments are not well represented in accounting firms. And though they're in the workforce, they're in organizations, accountancy firms need to kind of get in sync with the diversity that's happening, the massive diversity changes that are happening that are transforming American society and American business. So those are two big areas. I would say innovation, globalization, and diversity around changing your workforce. I think those are the three big areas that came away in the study. Probably the biggest one is around technology and innovation. That's the one that we need to really, are they really in sync with predictive analytics or 3D printing or, what's next for cloud? Those things are not advanced technologies. Smart machines or artificial intelligence maybe, but all of them, particularly technologies, are having a massive impact on business. So therefore, accountancy firms and individual accountants need to be more in sync with the future. That was the takeaway of the study.
I love that. You hit on so many key points, and it's really interesting how technology is the driver across industries for business change, specifically for accountancy firms. Can you talk a little bit? You led, I should say, an executive roundtable a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was in New York City. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What were some of the topics that you discussed? Was it all related to this report? And what were some of the takeaways from the attendees there?
Well, I gave a presentation about the study, the CPA of the future, and what I wanted everybody to kind of know. This is what's coming. Now, most of the people there are very, very technology oriented. So I talked a lot about innovation. I talked about big data, how every organization is really about managing their data, and you're either managing your data for better customer service, for being able to create better products, for being able to help your employees manage each other and their clients. So I talked a lot about innovative technologies, both that are current, cloud analytics, and things that are coming, meaning the management of desire or smart machines. We'll be using artificial intelligence a lot more embedded in everything that we've got. People take it for granted. It's kind of crept up and kind of crept into our lives, if you will. And I don't think people realize the extent of it on voicemail or telecommunications or banking. And inevitably, there's even programs that you can use to do your taxes, right? So what's going to happen for accountants is they're going to need to leverage bigger and better and smarter technology. So I had a series of forecasts and trends. I talked about the connected planet, how smart machines will dominate decision making, how we need to do a better job at predicting what kind of data we extract from our customers in the marketplace so we can be more competitive, and then basically how to use innovation to really drive competitive advantage. I think that's the key takeaway.
I love that. And I saw a tweet, I was following the hashtags during the roundtable discussion, how because probably of smart technology, we're moving from a business to business relationship to a human to human relationship. And I think that will help those that are future ready will emphasize their ability to focus on the human aspects of their work.
Well, I think so, but there's a lot of work that needs to get done. Accountancy is a complicated discipline that requires, a lot of new understanding of cross-border finance and other kinds of complexities that deal with risks that, quite frankly, even 3 to 5 years ago we didn't have, such as Bitcoin and digital currencies, which I did talk a bit about. But that's going to have a massive impact on every organization. Not everybody right away, but you could have potentially, I'm forecasting, companies that understand the blockchain and understand Bitcoin and digital currencies could end up being, at the leading edge of a transformation in business. And accountants need to be in sync with this. They need to understand what this is. They can't just kind of avoid it or think that it's something that a group of criminals at Silk Road are doing, or just a bunch of folks that want to kind of hide from the authorities. That's kind of on the edge of this culture. What's going to come more in is that digital currencies will become an accepted way. They are an accepted way for paying for many things. That's going to represent new challenges, I think, for the accounting industry.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. So with digital currency, we are a digital currency-based company and work mostly with financial professionals and accountants. Where should an accountant start to learn about digital currency? Should he or she wait until a client approaches them with that situation? What's your suggestion on that?
Well, I think that accountants should jump right in. I think accountants should go ahead and buy a couple of Bitcoins, go ahead and start dealing with companies like Coinbase. They should understand and understand the blockchain, what that's about. They should understand P2P. And again, the best way to jump in is buy a couple of Bitcoins, start building up your asset base, and then start to communicate and pay attention and read some of the articles that are out there, exchange news, blog with others. I mean, come on into the water. The water's fine. Come on in. I mean, they got to get involved in all this. I mean, some of them I would even recommend, beyond just acquiring Bitcoins, but also what could you do with that Bitcoin? Well, try paying something for it. Use it for an exchange. See what the implications are. For those that are a little bit more sophisticated, I would say for accountants, well, see if you can go ahead and you can actually invest in companies, just a couple of dollars, where they'll mine Bitcoins for you. Every accountant should be mining Bitcoins. And then, of course, the more sophisticated, such as myself, and others who are not an accountant, but I would suggest for accountants, they can certainly start leveraging and building out the Bitcoin hedges and start to exchange carbon credits for Bitcoins and start bartering online and get into the deep web. And hey, you want to play in the game, you got to get wet. Come on, check it out.
And it's not that scary. So you do hold some Bitcoin, I take it.
I control a small portion of the Bitcoin universe. I can't really get into that right now, but let's just say, in all seriousness, the best way to learn, and I can say because I came out of Apple Computer in the early days with Steve Jobs, the best way to learn about any technology is to, get into it, buy some of it, play with it. You want to learn about video games, you can't read about it, you got to play them. So when I wanted to first get involved with computers, I had to sit down, learn about it, put your hands on it, okay? I wanted to learn recently about drones. So I bought a couple of them to play with, right? I invested in a couple of crowdsourcing platforms. And now I've got drones that are flying, around, and I'm controlling them with my iPhone here. I mean, if you want to play in the game, you gotta experiment. You gotta see what's going on, right? That's what it's all about.
I agree. I love it. I love it. And it's helpful to live in the Bay Area. I think we're pretty fortunate to just be surrounded by technology all the time and can easily play with something or hear about it first. That does make it a little bit easier. For those that are skeptical about digital currency, they think it's just something that it's just a phase, whether it's criminal activity or just a few techie people that are using it. What do you say to those that just think that this is going to go away?
Well, I think that the level of adoption I'm actually surprised the level of adoption of digital currency right now. I'm surprised that there are actual kiosks in Asia where you can exchange Bitcoins and dollars and credit cards. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that there is, you can make a donation, I think, to the Republican Party with Bitcoins. Okay, I mean that's kind of shaking the world, right? So there's hundreds, if not thousands, of merchants and vendors that will accept Bitcoin. Now, what are the implications of a level of adoption? And I'll give accountants an example of of another innovation that was on the edge and then got embraced. And I talked about this at the roundtable, was XBRL. You know, there was a time when XBRL compliancy, 98% of the accountants didn't know what XBRL is. And XBRL now has become, you know, the fastest, most agile way to close your books and to be able, it's a standard, right? It's a standard of digital accounting, if you will, bookkeeping. So that caught on very quickly. And I think that Bitcoin, though it's not a standard, I do think the underlying notion of digital currencies, and Bitcoin is the first, there'll be lots of other ones. Some will be more secure than others. I think people could read about these articles, learn about them. I think that the level of adoption is happening virally, very quickly, and I think that bodes well for where it's going to go. But the warning is, and again, I'm not in love with every technology. You know, Bitcoin is just one of digital technology. There's dozens of other technologies. I would imagine you're going to see, just as you have PayPal and you got Apple Pay and Google Wallet, you're going to have various forms of digital currency. We haven't seen it settling in yet, and Bitcoin is just the beginning of it. But I think it's one of the digital currencies that will be sustainable because of the level of adoption by the marketplace. That's really what every accountant needs to stand up and pay attention to. It's not what I think as a futurist, or you know what the New York Times thinks or the Wall Street Journal. It's if you have an aggregate percentage and a large mass of vendors that are willing to accept and convert. I mean, you can now use Bitcoin to pay for your Uber car. Think about the implications of that, okay?
Sure.
But if you can actually start to exchange dollars and Bitcoin may become a hedge against, let's say, devaluation of other currencies. I think that could be very interesting. And I think that's where we're going. And the folks that are deep into Bitcoin, meaning they've got large holdings, that's the way they talk about all of that.
Very interesting. Yes, it's an exciting place and time that we're in right now. So as a futurist, this is the future of money. Can you tell us, what do you think the future of money is?
Well, I think the future of money is different kinds of the revolution in the internet, which has not come to money. And of course, Bitcoin is just the beginning of that. I think that's a big part of the future of money. I think there'll be digital currencies, P2P commerce, you know, C to B, when digital platforms become secure ways for individuals to buy things and exchange value with each other. I think governments are going to have to recognize that this is an entirely new narrative. I mean, there is no algorithm that backs up the value of the US dollar or the Japanese yen or even the euro. What's the reason the euro, you know, goes up or down? You know, it's, well, economics would tell us it's supply and demand. Not really. It's either supported or it's not by an economy. You know, it used to be, well before most of us recall, that you had the Federal Reserve in the U.S. and other central banks would only print a certain amount of money that they could, that was reflective of the amount of gold and silver assets, hard assets that we had in Fort Knox, for instance. Well, when we got off the gold standard, you know, all of a sudden you have these free-floating currencies that are based on, quite frankly, oftentimes voodoo economics, meaning it's the economics du jour of the day. Well, that's interesting, but nobody's been able to convince me that why the U.S. dollar is at the price it is, or why the euro is at the price it is. And you have a revolution right now, of course, in other folks since Bretton Woods, where the U.S. dollar was accepted as the trade standard for doing all international trade. Now you have an effort by China, I think Russia, and other countries that would say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should be thinking about a more stable basket of currencies, and we should make that the international trade standard. Now, that's going to be threatening for the U.S. dollar because U.S. has a more of a if you will, almost an unfair advantage since the end of World War II. But not getting into a lot of history here. Look, I don't want to bore anybody.
I
The
think it's
internet
exciting.
has had a massive impact on everything, and it's going to have a massive impact on the future of money.
I absolutely love that. You are just a wealth of information and knowledge. Thank you so much, Dr. Canton. And we'll include a link to your report down at the bottom. And yes, appreciate your
Okay,
time
and
today.
to my website, in case anybody wants to check out globalfuturist.com and my books and stuff. They want more information. There's a lot there for you.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. How can people best connect with you? Your website, and then is there a way to connect with you directly?
Yeah, they can go to my website. They can certainly follow me on Twitter at futureguru.com, rather, future, hashtag futureguru. And then they can always email me off the website at globalfuturist.com or futureguru.com.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Dr. Cannon. Really appreciate your time today and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.